Let's just say if things go as planned. If things go as planned, according to the betting markets, Tennessee will record a victory over a top 15 Power on Saturday, improve to 4-0, and possibly move into the top 5 of the AP poll for the first time in nearly 2 years. Needless to say, that would be a massive development for fourth-year Vols coach Josh Heupel, especially considering a victory over top 15 Power would come at the expense of the school where he once was named the AP National Player of the Year while leading Oklahoma to an undefeated season and a national championship. That's the first part of the Josh Heupel story at Oklahoma. He was a star football player at OU in 1999-2000. And then after a brief professional career, he got into coaching as a graduate assistant at his alma mater at Oklahoma. This happened in 2004. Coached quarterbacks at Oklahoma from 2006 to 2010, and then he was the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma from 2011 through that 2014 season. And then in January 2015, following an 8-5 season featuring a 40-6 loss to Clemson in the Russell Athletic Bowl, Josh Heupel was fired, along with Jay Norvell, who, of course, is now the head coach at Colorado State. They were the co-offensive coordinators at Oklahoma at the time. They were both fired by Josh Heupel's alma mater, specifically by legendary Oklahoma coach Bob Stoops. That stings. So after that, he is on staff at Utah State. I mean, imagine you're running the offense at your alma mater, and now you're at Utah State. Then he goes to Missouri, worked Barry Odom there, and then he gets the Central Florida head coaching job. That happens in 2018. 3 seasons there, gets the Tennessee job. He's won bowl games in each of his past 2 years. He's 23-6 in his past 29 games at Tennessee. Currently has a team ranked 6th in the AP poll. That's all great. So obviously, everything has worked out okay for Josh Heupel. And he even said in an interview this week he wouldn't change anything because everything that happened led to him being on Rocky Top with a top 10 team. He's happy to let everything happen and unfold the way it happened and unfolded because that's how he ended up here. Still, nobody likes getting fired, especially by their alma mater. So what do you think, Big Bennett? What kind of emotion do you think Josh Heupel is taking back to Oklahoma this weekend? It's got to be pretty strong.
Oh, he wants to blast them.
Kill them.
Yeah, he wants to blast them.
Yes.
Especially like he's been in the SEC now for a minute. He's had success in the SEC. They're new to the SEC. Obviously, historic program, Oklahoma, but he wants to blast them and say, yo, you're not going to have the same level of success in this league.
He wants to remind them that they let one of the great college football coaches go. He wants to prove to them, on some level, I'm certain, that they made a mistake when they fired him in January 2015. The problem, of course, is that it's not clear it was a mistake. Because you know what they did when they fired Josh Heupel? They hired Lincoln Riley,
who was awesome,
and became the heir to Bob Stoops and is now the head coach at USC. So it's hard to argue intelligently Oklahoma made a mistake to fire Josh Heupel because that allowed them to hire Lincoln Riley, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah.
Heisman Trophy winners, double-digit win seasons, a lot of success. So I don't know if you'll ever be able to say Bob Stoops made a mistake. But Bob Stoops has written about this in his book. And do you know what he described, how he described the day that he fired Josh Heupel? He said that is the hardest day in my entire head coaching career.
Yeah, because it
is the hardest thing I ever did.
It's different when you're firing someone that's a big part of the history of that school, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it'd be different if it's a guy that's just on your staff, and but this guy like means something to Oklahoma fans.
He was your quarterback.
Yeah.
Before he was your coordinator. You brought him there. All right. You watched him grow up.
Oh, see, I didn't realize that he was his coach.
You watched him grow up. You watched him become a man. You gave him his first coaching job. Then you put him in charge of your offense. Like, this isn't just a coach scapegoating a coordinator. This is a coach firing somebody who means a lot to him and firing somebody who means a ton to that university. He's an Oklahoma legend. I don't even know what the good comp would be, but think about if John Calipari used Chris Douglas Roberts to win a national championship in 2008. CDR goes to the NBA, tries it ain't working, decides he wants to get back into coaching. Cal makes him a grad assistant on staff, then makes him a lead assistant on staff, and then when things go bad, say, 8, 9 years later, he fires Chris Douglas Roberts. This player he recruited, he coached, he brought into the coaching profession, and then you say, I'm going to keep working here, but you got to go. That's tough.
Yeah.
That is a tough thing to deal with. And by all indications, Bob Stoops and Josh Heupel have improved what was once an icy relationship after Bob fired Josh. They seem to have healed that in some way, which I think is much easier to do when you have the success that Josh Heupel has post-Oklahoma. When you get fired, I imagine you don't know which way your career is going, which way your life is going. There's no guarantee it's ever going to end up in a good place or even in as good of a place it once was. If Josh Heupel's career goes a different way, he goes and becomes the offensive coordinator at Utah State, bombs out there, gets another job, bombs out there, and now he's selling car insurance somewhere or just being, whatever. I imagine it's much more difficult to repair that relationship with Bob Stoops because you feel like on some level he cost you your career. But when your career goes from that moment to you're the head coach at Tennessee, life's good, you're making millions, you can sort of, I think it takes a little bit of the sting out of it.
Yep.
But that stuff is still there. Have you ever been fired?
Oh, have I ever been fired? No, I've never been fired.
I've never been fired either. I've never been fired. I mean, thankfully. Maybe it happens someday. But every once in a while, when
I've been close.
I mean, maybe I've been close. I don't know. But every once in a while, after we made the move over here, people would ask me, like, so what do you hope happens with 92.9? Like, I hope they flourish. I mean, some of those people are my friends over there. That was a place we spent a lot of time. I think for me, it was 13 years. I don't want anything but good things for all of the people over there. But do you know why I can say that, honestly? They didn't fire me.
Right. It didn't end ugly.
No, they did everything they could to keep me. They wanted to keep me. If they could take me back right now, I bet they probably would. So there's no animosity there. But if they had fired me and ran me out of there, I would be hoping the place burns down. I'd never understand how somebody can be so above it all to still wish good things for people they feel like wronged them, because I wouldn't be capable of doing that. I could maybe detach from it and not care as much, but there's no way I would root for somebody who I thought wronged me. And there's no scenario where I don't think I could get fired by a place and then want good things for the people who fired me or for the place where I used to work. If I were Josh Heupel, and I'm just projecting here because I'm not Josh Heupel, and maybe he's a better man than I am, more mature. But if I were Josh Heupel, I would be wanting to go back into Norman this weekend and beat these dudes by 50 if I could. I want to embarrass them. I used to work here, and it was my dream to someday replace Bob Stoops as the head of Oklahoma football, my coach, the same way Lincoln Riley was afforded that opportunity. You guys ripped that away from me. You scapegoated me after a mediocre season. Oklahoma doesn't describe it that way, but I bet you that's what Josh Heupel thinks. Hey man, I ain't the reason we lost 40-6. I might have only been responsible for 6 points, but I didn't give up to 40. I promise you, he feels like he was scapegoated on some level. I wanted to be the next head coach here. I'm thrilled that I'm in Tennessee. This was never the goal. This was never the plan. The plan was to replace my coach at Oklahoma, and you took that possibility away from me. Now I got to kill you. I would be going to Norman, Oklahoma to kill.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m.